Hi, Queens. Welcome to another episode of HERcast with Dr. Chito. And today's title is She Creates, Honoring Women's Contribution to Creativity. At HERcast, we focus on celebrating the ingenuity, passion, and boundless creativity of women around the world. I'm Dr. Chito, your host, and I'm so thrilled to embark on a journey of inspiration and exploration with our very special guest, Mrs. Omolara Akinwolere. Let me tell you about this amazing woman. She is the founder of Lara Craft Toys. She's the director of Judy's Preparatory School, and she's the author of Storybooks by Lara Craft. She is a true visionary, a trailblazer in the realms of education, entrepreneurship, and storytelling. From crafting the imaginative worlds through Lara Craft Toys, I love those toys, to shaping young minds as director of Judy's Preparatory School, her impact knows no bounds. And let's not forget her enchanting narratives as an author with Storybooks by Lara Craft. Amazing books. Today we delve into her journey, her insights and creativity, and the empowering role of women in shaping our creative landscapes. So go get that your favorite drink, whatever you need to settle in and be prepared to be inspired. Welcome, Lara. I call her Lara, so I'm going to say, Lara Craft. So welcome, Lara. Welcome to HERcast with Dr. Chito. I'm such an honor to have you here. It truly is.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Chito. I'm very excited to be here today.
Awesome. I'm going to just run into these questions that I had because I have questions that I've always wanted to ask you, and it's great that I can ask you now on this show because this is about inspiring and empowering women all over the world, hopefully. Can you share with us the inspiration behind founding Lara Craft Toys and what motivated you to venture into the toy industry?
Okay. The question, every time I talk about it, there's no way I don't light up because starting Lara Craft Toys was actually inspired by my daughter.
Oh.
When she was much younger, and they're playing with toys. There was a particular day I wanted her to come and eat, actually, and she didn't want to eat because she was playing with her toys. And we're eating Nigerian food, and she didn't want to eat that particular Nigerian food. And she goes, "Oh, why do we have to eat it? Is it because we're Yoruba people?" So I realized that she didn't know much about the food. And I said, at that point, I just thought, you know what, if she had Nigerian food toys that she was playing with, then it will be easier for her to understand that, okay, this toys that I'm playing with, it's exactly what I'm going to eat now. So that way she's able to understand everything. So it was at that moment that I had the idea for the toy factory, and it just started just from that comment she made.
And it's amazing, and they're environmental friendly toys. Like you take particular care to just make it all around safe toys. Amazing. I always tell me that this toy is global. We started in Nigeria, so we're proud. And we take these toys everywhere, and I just think that they're amazing. And schools love it, kids love it.
Thank you.
We learn with it, we learn our maths with it, and we learn our words with it.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing.
Thank you.
As director of Judy's Preparatory School, how do you incorporate creativity into your curriculum? Because you're a creative person, but how do you incorporate it into the curriculum to nurture young minds?
Okay, that's actually one of the easiest things to do because you're working with children.
Yes.
Judy's Prep started with just early years. Now we have the primary as well. So in early years, we encourage the children to learn through play. And what better way to learn through play than to be creative? You expect the children to come up with their own stories. So if you give them toys or props, you don't necessarily need to tell them this is how to play with it. You allow the children learn and explore. So once you're in that situation or environment where children naturally want to learn, so sometimes even if you're trying to teach a child a particular topic, you might switch what you're going to teach them when you see how the child starts to play with, whatever toy it is you've given them. Yeah. And from that, then you also have more ideas on what you can create and how other children around also like to learn. So naturally, being around children just makes you see that there's creativity everywhere.
Wow. Well, now I'm going back to the books now. Your work as an author with Storybooks by Lara Craft has garnered much acclaim. Can you tell us about your creative process when crafting these captivating narratives? I know I've heard this many times, but I want everybody to hear what I've heard because I think it's an amazing journey with Lara Craft.
Okay, so the first book is titled Meet Lara Craft.
Yes.
And once again, I'm going to give the credit to my daughter. Because once she says something, it always just gives me more ideas. So the character was actually created to look like her. You know, the illustrator had to draw the character to look like her because she always used to pack her hair this way as well. So like I mentioned as well, I just wanted to create something that she would see and she'll be proud of, and she would also like to contribute towards. She's a fantastic writer. You know,
she's taking after mom. Oh, mini me. This is her mini me.
So she's a fantastic writer. She loves to write. So I always encourage her as well. So when I'm writing some of these stories, I go to her, what do you think? How should I write this? And then she phrases it a certain way. And I go, oh, okay, you know, I wasn't thinking about that. So Lara Craft was created really because of my daughter. For her to be able to see herself in books and to know that, oh, if my mom can do this, then there's absolutely, you know, nothing I can't do as well. So it was actually created to inspire her and as well as being able to inspire all the other children around.
This is amazing. And she didn't add this first book, I'm in it.
Yes, yes. Dr. Chito is in it.
Dr. Chito is in it. I have a character there.
Dr. Chito
I'm striving to look like my character in there. So, yeah. How do you balance, though? You see, one of the things we talked about, I remember one of the episodes we had where we had different women here that were CEOs, entrepreneurs. The question always arises for us is, how do you balance your roles as an entrepreneur, an educator, an author, and of course, we can see a great mama and wife. How do you balance your roles, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Okay. I don't think I'll be able to do half of what I do without the support that I have. First is the support from my husband.
Yes.
He is literally, you know, like my rock.
Yes.
So even when I have ideas, I'm bouncing it off him. Even when I want to do anything, you know, I bounce it off him. And then, of course, my parents. There's nothing I do that they don't support. My siblings, my family, we're very close. So for me to be able to do anything, I know I have this support system. So if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing, they're always there to let me know the direction I'm going towards.
Tell you the truth.
And tell me the truth, absolutely. Yes. So my husband, my family, they're my support system. So if I have an interview, I have anything else I'm doing, I know my husband is there for the children.
Yes.
So that for me gives me that peace of mind to know that I have a partner that literally supports me in anything I do, and that just builds more confidence, and it just gives me peace.
Yes,
you know?
I think that's awesome.
I think
that's awesome because that's a gift, though. That's a gift. Not many women have that, but that's a huge gift.
You know, so I think the peace he gives me is what makes me relaxed enough, or to make me have that creative mind to say, oh, let me do this. Because really and truly, if I didn't have that peace, I wouldn't even think of writing a book or doing so many other things. So I have peace, and then that way I'm able to, of course, spread what I have to other people.
I think that thing you said now about peace is very important, because I think when it comes to creativity, even sometimes when I try to be out of the box kind of doctor, and it's always what I try to be, because treating people, you have to be creative. You need to come out of chaos. Chaos and creativity don't go well together. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
That when it's chaotic, your creativity, your creative juices just
mind is
dry up.
Everywhere.
Yes. You need a place of peace, and I think that's important for women who are in the creative field to really understand that they have to intentionally create peace around them.
Absolutely.
Honestly. Now, can you share some challenges you faced? There's challenges everywhere, but in your creative journey, what challenges have you faced, and how have you overcome them?
Okay, so I don't know about other creatives, but I know that one thing with me is, because I'm a creative person, and I actually just discovered that recently. I didn't think I was always a creative person, so I discovered that recently. But the challenge for me as a creative person is I have 1,000,001 ideas. So sometimes I say my strength is also my weakness, because I have so many ideas, but I'm not patient enough to just leave one and focus on. I always almost want everything all at once, you know, so that is a big challenge that I have. And where it also puts a challenge on me is the financial part, because I want to see all my ideas, and sometimes I don't worry about the budget.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh no, this is going to be fantastic if I create it this way, and then I'm pumping in more money here just to support those ideas. So that's the challenge I have as a creative person, because I don't like to procrastinate. I like to do it now.
Yes.
So now I'm learning to just, you know, take a step back. Yes, you have this idea, breathe, relax, you know, see through before
you go to the next.
You go to the next.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I think creative people have, is that they just want to see what they see in their head come to life immediately.
Absolutely.
And not take them piece by piece by piece. And I think that's really, I think it's a good thing, but it comes harder with the financial part of it.
Exactly.
It comes harder with the financial part of it. So what advice would you give to aspiring women entrepreneurs looking to make their mark in the creative industry? What advice would you give women?
Okay, usually when it comes to starting anything, whether you're in the creative industry or anywhere else, first thing most people think of is the funds. You know, oh, I don't have the funds to start this or to make it bigger or to just, you know, expand whatever it is I have. I always just say start from where you are. Whether you're, you know, you have something you're doing in your kitchen, in your house, start from where you are. When I started Lara Craft Toys, it was during COVID. So even though I had the idea for the toy company years ago, I never did anything about it until COVID. And during COVID, while the children were at home, that's when I thought, oh, okay, this idea, let me see how, you know, I can do more with it. And I started creating these resources, these toys, and sending to parents from my house. So we couldn't import things. Airports were closed. Everywhere else was closed. So I started making things from my house, you know, and then sending to parents. And once COVID, you know, was going down a little bit, from there, I just kept up with it. I continued with it. I had to get the carpenters to come to my house. I didn't have a workshop. I didn't have a space. I didn't have anything. So it was literally in my house. So they're at home. We're at the back of my house. They're teaching me how to use the jigsaw machines, how to use all these things. So I literally started from my house. So if you feel you don't have everything in place, just start with what you have.
That's amazing.
I think that's really, sometimes we underestimate that, but if we actually say, okay, I know where I'm going to, I'm not there yet. And guess what? Even in 10, 20 years, you might feel, oh, you're not there yet, but yes, keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going, because you're not going to remain the same place. If you don't start at all, then you're there. But the moment you start with the little you have, at least you're, you know, moving forward a little.
Yeah, I think that's a very great advice, because many people just try to say, oh, I don't have money to do this. And they literally live so many years with the ideas in them, the ideas that would have changed the world or impacted somebody. And I think that just start from where you are is something that's really important. We were just talking about how her book encouraged me as well, and how during my journey, my hospital and all that, then all of a sudden she came and said, you're a character in my book. And that was like, oh, it means I'm doing something right. I better keep going. So she's really important to my story as well. She has, you know, as you can see, she has amazing insights and amazing advice as well.
And really, it's because you've been amazing. From the first day I met you, I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to take my children to. You know, so anything that has to do with children and women, Dr. Chito is always the first person. So when I was writing the book and the character had to go to the hospital, of course they're going to Dr. Chito, you know. So that was so encouraging.
I was so excited, you know. So we're a Lara Craft family. All right. Now, how do you stay inspired and motivated to continuously innovate in your various creative pursuits? You know that a lot of times people get discouraged with what goes on around them, and sometimes staying focused is so hard and takes a lot of intentionality.
Absolutely.
So how do you stay inspired and just always excited to do the next best thing, or motivated? How do you do it?
Okay, really, in the environment we're in, it's easy for you to not be as motivated, because sometimes you're trying and trying and trying and you just feel like it's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But like I mentioned earlier, I love to surround myself with children. So you're thinking of all these many things, and then you walk into a room and you see a child smiling and waving or bringing a book to you. You're like, oh, okay, this child is excited about what you're doing. So sometimes I try to limit the outside noise and then focus on my key customers, which are the children.
Yes.
So if I'm in school, for example, and the children, they see me, they're like, oh, they call me Mrs. Akin at school. So they say, oh, Mrs. Akin, I read this book and I loved it. What's the next one? What's the next story? So they're the ones motivating me and asking me what's next. You know, and once I see how they engage with certain books or certain products and they get bored after a while, so I ask them, what do you think, what do you want next? So most times the children keep me motivated because I want to see them engaged. I want to see how well they're learning. So by engaging with them as well, they always motivate me.
That's awesome. See, you have all the inspiration around you.
Around me, yes.
You literally do. All right. How do you stay attuned to the evolving needs and interests? I know you just talked about the trend inspired, but with the new trends, especially in technology and kids being so attached to their devices sometimes, you know, how do you stay attuned to the evolving needs and interests in children when developing new toys or educational materials? Because I know you want to keep it trendy, you want to continue to attract their attention.
Of course.
But how do you do it?
Okay, like I mentioned, if I'm around kids, I always listen and I see how they interact. So when I wrote, the books, part of what I did with the other episodes of the book was to incorporate technology into it.
Yes.
That's what I did with this one. And that's because children, as it is now, you can't take away the devices from them, whether you like it or not. Devices are here to stay. So it's, the amount of time you give to them that we can really control. So I see that these children are on the devices all the time. The traditional way of reading books, most children might not necessarily want to sit down to read a book for a long time. They'd rather use their tablets or iPhones. So I said, okay, if I'm able to incorporate technology into books, it's like, it's a win-win. So with the books, of course, they're reading, and then the children can listen to the voices of the characters in the book. So that way they know, oh, I'm going to grab my my phone.
Yes.
And you've witnessed it, you've experienced it before.
I was about to talk about.
So they say, oh, I'm going to grab the phone, or mommy, your phone, daddy, your phone. And guess what? They're not just playing video games on it. They're actually going to read a book with it, and they're learning new languages, and they're learning how to use this technology as well. So for that, I think, they enjoy it so
my
far.
favorite here, all of them are my favorite, but the first QR book was this one, I think, right?
Oh, yes, because
the Nigerian
you inspired
Christmas
me
Carol.
to write this one.
This one?
Yes.
The Nigerian Christmas Carol.
Carol.
Because I remember when I read these two books at my kids' school, and I'm doing their book week or whatever, I went to read them a story, and they were so, I think what really impacted the most was you put the QR code and you hear the song in the Christmas book.
Absolutely.
They just heard it directly as if they're hearing the directions themselves. They're hearing it. You're reading it, but then you put the QR code, you scan it, and they now hear it.
It's a process.
I couldn't get away from the QR code after that. It was like we had to do all the QR codes. And I think the part that really touched me was that part that goes, I'm strong, I'm brave. And, so the book has a story, but it has those motivating points that make kids just love themselves.
Absolutely.
And me, I'm all about inspiration, empowerment, children just growing up to believe they can do whatever, positive affirmations.
Absolutely.
And I think this book really, really does that. Oh, yes, it did. I mean, that's one thing I love about your books. And then the VR. I was like begging my child, Nigeria, we sometimes have this network issue, and I'm there and I'm trying to get what's in the VR set, and it was not coming. She did not let me sleep. By that night, I have to see what she was
what
like
Lara Craft could see.
What could Lara Craft see? I have to see what Lara Craft could see.
Absolutely.
So I think that's an amazing inclusion in the books. Amazing.
I'm glad. Thank you. I mentioned earlier that you inspired me to write this one as well. And it's from, I think you were also asking me how I get motivated. It's comments. Sometimes once I hear comments, I just switch it into something else. We were by the pool the other day, and you said, oh, when is the next episode coming out? I had written this one, but it was, around Christmas, and I didn't want to release it during Christmas. I was going to release it the next year. So he said, oh, why don't I just release during Christmas and all? But I went back to the story. I said, there's no way I can tie any Christmas theme into this. I might as well write a new story. And that's when I wrote this one. And I wrote this book in 2 days.
Wow.
I wrote the story
and it's amazing.
in 2 days. So what took a longer time was the illustrations, because I always use artificial intelligence as well. But the story itself took 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. All right. So can you discuss any initiatives or projects you're currently working on that aim to, of course, that will aim to not only build children, also empower and inspire women in the creative industry? What other projects are coming up? Because
okay. Like I said, I
know you're always working.
I'm always working on something. But the one I have other things in the pipeline, but the one I'm talking about now, because it's more short term, I'm hoping that it'll be released by June. So it's still, everything I do is all tied to education, you know.
Yes.
So what I'm also doing now, I have a background in information systems, you know, so it's knowledge that has always been there. My husband is into IT, you know, we're a tech family, and now it's more of tech as well with everything we do. So I said, okay, my knowledge of tech, how else can I incorporate it into education? You know, not even just for the younger kids, but for older people, for women, for youth, for teenagers, especially teenagers. My children are teenagers now,
yes.
So I know what we go through when it comes to the devices. So I enrolled myself in a cybersecurity course, which is what, so I'm doing a cybersecurity course right now. And the aim is to be able to understand more of cybersecurity, the threats, and, you know, the way we can do like damage control, and also educate the children. So what I just decided to come up with was, oh, you know what? I'm going to start writing comic books, but cybersecurity themed comic books. And the focus will be for teens and also for women. You know, of course, when it comes to men, they are more in tune with technology. But when it comes to things like cybersecurity, women are, you know, some women, not all, might find it a bit difficult. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is to incorporate storytelling into cybersecurity.
Wow.
So you're going to pick up a comic book, you know, like all those Super Striker comics that my son always loved, you know, so it will be something like that. So it's a comic book targeted towards cybersecurity, and it has characters in it. I'll just tell you briefly what it's about. So at the beginning, you're meeting 3 characters named Chichi, Aisha, and Ibironke, right? So these 3 characters are friends, and they're trying to get a house together, and you find out what happens at the end. But in cybersecurity, we have something we call confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So guess what? Chi-Chi represents confidentiality, right?
Yes.
Ibironke represents integrity, while Aisha represents availability.
Okay.
So that's what we call the CIA triad. You know, so that way I've already told you a little bit about cybersecurity, right? But not, you know, in depth. So it's just like using storytelling to teach people what cybersecurity is all about.
I think that'll be interesting. So we're going to look out for that. You better tell me when it comes out.
I will. I will.
We're going to definitely look out for that.
I will.
Another thing that one question I'm going to ask is that sometimes when we do what we do and we grow, one of the things that really we focus on is trying to make sure that whatever we do not lose our vision. Because, you know, one thing I've noticed here is that so many people have a lot to always say to you, like, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? Why not that? And it's so hard just to say, I want to stay focused so that I do not lose, you know, where I want to go, my vision. Absolutely. You stay focused on your goals, initiatives, in spite of all the things that people tell you. And also as a leader in both education and entrepreneurship, it's a long question. I want to listen to you talk. How do you prioritize innovation while ensuring your initiatives align with your core values?
Okay.
So that's about the same thing, but that's how do you stay focused and how do you know, make sure that what you're innovating always aligns? Because sometimes we want to move with trends as well, but it is not aligned with our core values. But how do you stay focused?
Okay, for me, I think first thing I'll tell everyone is to find your purpose. Once you find your purpose, once you know this is the reason why I'm on earth, this is what I'm here to do, then it's easier for you to do things that surround your purpose. And sometimes you don't even think far because everything you do will start falling in line. So I've recently discovered my purpose, and I know it's to contribute to education. Whether it's through the school, whether it's through my books, whether it's through cybersecurity, however I'm doing it, I'm going to educate somebody, whether it's children or adults. So my purpose is in the education field, you know. So for me, it's easy to stay focused. Then I say, okay, if I'm going to focus on children from this age to this age, what are the things they need now? It's all tied to education. I'm not doing, whether, like I said, the storybooks, it's tied to education. The school is tied to education. The toys, it's all tied to education. So even though they're like different branches, but it's still under that same umbrella of education. So I'm able to just say, okay, I'm going to focus on education, but of course, even if I'm branching out, it's still tied towards the same area. So for me, I keep my goal to say my purpose is education. So everything else I'm going to do will fall under this umbrella.
This is a very powerful message because sometimes you see people jumping in different from me. They don't wait and they jump. So it doesn't work for me. I remember hearing once from Tyler Perry about planting a seed and then watering the seed. Remember, a seed will always grow into a plant. And a plant sometimes can grow into, we always have little branches or leaves.
Yes.
But it still has one root.
Absolutely.
Right? And people forget that kind of thinking, that just stay where you're. Like mine is women. Everything women, anything to do with women, women's health, women's anything. Because I just feel health is just not physical. So everything that encompasses women. And I think people should know that, find your roots.
Absolutely.
Have a root. Because when the wind is blowing, is that the strength of that root that holds you in place.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's something that a lot of, you know, people need to hear here. Because that's why we have amazing people leave where we think they're amazing and they're somewhere else and like, where are you? We're waiting. You know? So it's very important to have that focus. Yes, have that focus. Yes,
absolutely.
So what are the, you know, what do you think, now I'm going to ask this question about barriers and misconceptions, but in your experience, what are some misconceptions or barriers that women face in the creative industry, and how can we work to address and overcome them? Okay.
Creative industry, of course, you know, there are different parts of it. I'm not sure if you know this, but I actually started out in photography.
Yes, I know.
Yes, you know everything. So I started out in photography when I moved to Abuja. In Lagos, I was in the corporate world. I worked in banks and telecoms. You know, so I moved to Abuja because of family, and then of course I had to do something else. So while I was doing photography, I would, you know, be the main photographer at an event. But then because I'm a woman, I think it's like people didn't believe it or didn't really see me. So they would let someone else have access to a place where I was meant to have access to. And I'm there trying to say, no, this is me. I'm trying to go there, until maybe the person doing the event goes to them and says, this is my photographer.
Yes.
You know, so they just assumed automatically because I'm the woman, I wasn't necessarily going to have access to that, you know, so I had to fight a little bit. And then even when there are like 20 photographers doing a major event, I'm the woman in the middle with my camera. So sometimes, so yes, I went through that as well. So sometimes the other men would see me and would help and bring me forward, you know, to be, because they're all tall, they're all over me, and then I'm just there. So some would actually help, but others, you know, don't mind. So sometimes just being a woman in a particular type of industry.
Are you telling me? Yep.
You know, makes it a bit difficult because it's almost like they don't see you and you have to fight a little bit more. But if you're in other industries, maybe like the fashion industry, it's almost like, oh, it's expected. But guess what? Even in the fashion industry now, it's not only women that are dominating.
No, yes,
you know, the men are taking over, they're dominating as well. So now there's just I think there's it's getting to a point where there'll be a balance.
Yes.
In so many areas.
Well, we're looking for that in the health sector as well. You know, and I think sometimes when you project your voice over this misconception, like, yeah, I'm here too. I'm here to sit with the men. Don't worry, I'm invited.
Absolutely.
And when you project your voice and you're bold, you're not like lady boss.
Right.
You know, you're now termed something to be different. But we're going to overcome those barriers. And I think now we're pretty much getting into those spaces that they used to close the door. We're opening the door. We started by pushing it. Now we're like flinging it open.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we get to be included in that.
Now a lot more women, they know what they're doing.
Yes.
Right? So it's not like I'm here in this position just because, no, I'm here because I've earned it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. So once you know what you're doing, the respect, you know, comes.
Will come. And I think that's the important thing we know. It's not about just filling the quota.
Absolutely.
I want to put a woman in this space. Now, there are many women that know exactly what they're doing and can get the job done as well.
Absolutely.
And with respect, and just we will get the job done. We're professionals. And I think it's something that people need to be open-minded to.
Absolutely.
And with time, it's going to be, that's going to be the case. That's going to be the case. Are there, I know you've had your daughter inspire you, but are there role models in the creative industries or mentors in your journey so far that you've not mentioned? And how have those mentors impacted your journey? Why I'm saying that, because I've always told people having mentors, like even you should have mentees, right? Having mentors, and I always try to encourage young people, get a mentor in the area that you have passion for. It does a whole lot to be guided. It saves you a whole lot of stress. And sometimes we didn't have those access. You see somebody, you don't even know how to approach them, and you don't know what to say. But I think people are more open to having mentees, and most people that are open had their own mentors as well. Do you have anybody that was like a mentor to you, or someone that was a role model to you in this?
Okay. I have different role models for, of course, different purposes, different things, right? So first, in terms of anything I do, I think my dad is like the #1 role model, right? Because anything he does, he stays positive. He gives me that, he's a full ball of positivity. He gives me that positivity, that energy. You can do this, you can do it this way. And then my mom, she's a creative person. She's a creative person, but sometimes when I look at it, we're 5, right?
Yes.
So she spent a lot of her time taking care of 5 of us.
Yes.
Not necessarily focusing on her creative part. So when I see her and she comes up with these ideas, and also a lot of things I do, I try to incorporate all the things that she didn't do.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, when I look at her, I'm like, okay, don't worry, I'm here. Everything that you wanted to do, I'll be able to do it. My school is named after her, for example, so my parents are my #1 role models.
Yes.
Right? Then in terms of anything else, my secondary school, I went to Vivian Fowler, and the owner of the school, Mama, as we all called her then, now thinking about it, Mama was an amazing person. She just wanted that girl education. Vivian Fowler was an all-girls school. You go in, Mama wanted you to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, So I didn't realize how much that left an impact on me until my later years. And I was like, oh, wow, this person definitely, made an impact, in my life. So my parents and then Mrs. Fowler, I think are one of the two, are the people that I sort of think about when I'm doing things as well.
Amazing. Now, just to round up, I'm looking to the future. What do you envision for intersection of creativity, education, and entrepreneurship, and how do you hope to contribute to that vision?
Okay, so when it comes to education, I don't think education should just remain the way it's always been. Times are different.
Yes.
Children are different. You already know now children are allowed to express themselves, to speak up, to talk. When we were growing up, we didn't necessarily have that.
Yes.
So I'll just generally like to see, schools or, the education industry allow these children to actually bring out what's inside them without us necessarily, stifling their creativity and thoughts. And, so I want to see.
Very important.
Yes. So I want to see more of that because my daughter is very creative as well. So yes, of course, culture is a big thing here. A child can't speak back at a certain point and all. But, as adults now, we also need to understand, okay, let me listen to this child. Let me understand what this child is, trying to say or do, and then see how, it can benefit us all. So I think in terms of education, I would just like to see an environment where children are actually allowed, to be themselves, to just say, what's in there. Yes, I think it's more
and
of
I think
that.
parents can create that space as well. Like we always talk about, well, I said I will start. It's so hard, and nobody should judge me to be on the table for dinner time with kids. It's harder, when you're trying to balance this. But I told myself I'm going to be intentional because I really want to make sure I don't miss their ideas.
Absolutely.
Or to push and encourage whatever they want to create.
Exactly.
And I think even entrepreneurship skills, I think teaching our kids these skills is very important early.
It is.
Let them just learn and incorporate that into a curriculum.
Absolutely.
Let's not be still stuck in that. This is the academic. Oh, go play sports.
Exactly.
There's a lot more that kids have to offer, so
Exactly.
they can become the great people they are going to be in the future.
Exactly. And sometimes we talk about, oh, you know, let these things happen, but we can actually start
Yes.
it. You know, like just the other day I thought about it. Okay, you know, in schools they haven't fully incorporated like a financial literacy
Yes.
in the classroom.
Yes.
You know, but we're waiting for who? If I start today and say, okay, you know what, I want to write a curriculum on financial literacy and try to get it across to,
Yes.
you know, Ministry of Education or whoever it is, and
Yes.
say, okay, you know, take a look at this. If you think it's okay, at least it has been done.
Yes.
We can't say, oh, we don't have access to it. Something has been done. Then we can now tweak and, you know, send
Honestly,
to them,
yes.
which is actually something I've done. So it's there sitting on my laptop.
Bring
know.
it out because it's important.
It is.
It's so important that we get more creative with education as well,
Absolutely.
and we get kids to open up and express themselves. They cannot be closed up because of culture.
Absolutely.
Right? For me, I think Nigeria would be better if we have kids that are able to express and be creative, because that's what builds a really,
Yes.
really strong country, to be
Yes,
honest.
yes.
The strongest countries have a lot of creatives in their country.
But
and
they
here
still
we have a
that
lot.
Respect, you know, so
Respect.
we shouldn't
We
take
shouldn't
away,
lose away
yes,
the
we
respect.
shouldn't lose away
There's
the
a
respect
balance
and the culture.
There's
yes.
a balance. The culture is important, and then how to balance that so we don't clam them up, I think is also important. There is a balance, and I think we can find that balance.
We can.
Nigeria is amazing. It has so many creative people, so many
Absolutely.
people doing so many works that are not being pushed out there. And hopefully after this, we can kind of hunt them down and bring them out,
Right.
and just help them have a voice.
Absolutely.
All right. I think this has been an amazing
wow.
episode. See, I brought so much out of you. I love it.
know,
I really
right?
love it.
Thank you.
And I know it's going to really bless many people out there just
I
to
hope
listen
so.
to you. All right. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of creativity, guided by the remarkable Mrs. Omolara Akinwolere. From her innovative toys to her inspiring educational initiatives and captivating stories, she exemplifies the transformative power of women's creativity. As we wrap up, let's remember that creativity knows no bounds, and it's through celebrating and honoring women like Mrs. Akinwolere that we continue to pave the way for a more vibrant and imaginative future. Join us next time as we continue to explore the myriad ways of women are shaping and enriching our world through creativity. Until then, keep creating, keep inspiring, and keep celebrating the creativity within you. This is Dr. Chito signing off from She Creates. Goodbye and stay creative.